I'm making this video in response to the many videos that are being made expressing anger, outrage, and disappointment in me for a newsletter I sent out a week ago. They've started a very important conversation we need to be having in this community, and I hope this video will continue that dialogue. The reason I wanted to make this video is because I did see the hurt I caused, and I wanted people to know that I saw that. I saw the hurt I caused. In my newsletter, I linked and publicized the discussion panel to bring awareness to it so as many people as possible could watch the panel speakers. To Queen Aset and the other organizers who worked so hard to put this diversity and inclusion event together, I am so sorry that I misspoke in such a way that I came across as saying that the event was not constructive. It was an incredibly important and impactful and powerful and also landmark event. I think this goes down in tarot history. I don't think we've ever, in the history of the tarot subculture that I know of, have ever had this kind of an event. So it was extremely monumental. I never and would never say otherwise. I hope I can bring awareness to the inclusivity issue, to why my newsletter wording was problematic, and I want to validate the emotional responses to my newsletter. I didn't think through my wording in a way that was compassionate, so hypocritically, I went against my own Buddhist moral values. I'm very, very sorry that the sharing of my Buddhist beliefs was taken as support for the political right-wing agenda and as incitement to silence Black people or as condoning violence against Black people. I want to continue that dialogue with this video. First, getting a little more personal than I usually get, Buddhism governs my worldview, my whole worldview. It's not something I dabble in, or I grew up a little bit Buddhist, or I found a philosophical interest in Buddhism as an adult. It was baked into who I was as a child. I'm talking, I would be shipped off to monasteries to spend months there every single year of my life growing up. So I can't separate a Buddhist worldview from anything that I do, and everything that I experience or think about, I do naturally process it through a Buddhist framework. So when I said middle path, I meant one thing, but a lot of people who don't share my cultural background heard something entirely different. When I was a kid growing up in a small, predominantly white suburb, I got bullied badly. And when my mother found out, the first thing she said to me wasn't to acknowledge my pain, but she told me to think beyond myself and try to understand my bully. I was like 9, and she was telling me to think about the experiences, the home life, and why my bully would go after me the way she was going after me. Before even acknowledging that I was getting bullied, my mom was telling me to think about the pain and suffering and the struggles of my bully. Since that's how I was raised, I guess that's what I was trying to bring to the table, to this conversation about inclusivity and racism. The other point I was trying to get at in my newsletter, in the Art of War, you are taught you have to truly understand the enemy to defeat the enemy. And to truly understand your enemy, it does require you to acknowledge their pain. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to condone their actions. You can still declare war on them. You still fight them. But you have to understand their pain if you want to defeat their ideology. In my newsletter, I genuinely was not speaking to any one side or trying to pander to any one side. I was trying to make very general statements just about approaching life these days, about how maybe a little bit of Buddhist philosophy could be useful, could be inspirational, but I definitely missed the mark. I didn't think it through. I wasn't considerate. Because I wasn't open-hearted, I failed at that. I effectively did the total opposite of what a Buddhist should do. I misspoke in my newsletter in a way that meant I was tone deaf, and I wasn't being sincerely compassionate about what's going on in the United States right now, and I feel awful about that. I've never been against speaking louder. Please speak louder. I was never against keeping true to your position. Stay your course. What I was trying to do was offer what I believed to be a solution. I was just trying to be solutions based on my experience. I was just offering my thoughts on how to actually achieve our goals of racial equality, diversity, and inclusion. I absolutely was not giving a pass to racism or making excuses for people who are anti-BLM. I was saying to fight racism, we have to try to understand the motivation, the impulses, the personal history, and even the drive of the racist. And specific to the tarot community, to understand inclusion issues and why there is a lack thereof, we have to understand the drive, the motivation, the impulses, and the also personal history of the deck publishers and also deck content creators. To achieve that, I was trying to talk about empathy as a strategy. I was not in any way giving any bad actors a pass. I was saying to catch a perpetrator, maybe we should try to think like the perpetrator. I was trying to say that through empathy, we can try to understand the motivations of perpetrators so we know exactly how to defeat them. That's a very, very different message from the one that came across to a lot of people. Equating walking the middle path with passivity in the face of systemic racism is a misinterpretation of Buddhism. And I think that comes from Westerners just reading about Buddhism and finding bits and pieces of it interesting rather than living it your entire life. In my mind, it was crystal clear that mental centeredness does not equate to political centeredness. I guess I approach life more like a chess game. I think about strategy, and that's probably why I became a lawyer. But I know that's not the right way of thinking right now, and I apologize for bringing that way of thinking here. In the videos and the commentary, people have told me that I need to check myself and to do shadow work around this matter, that I have a lot of shadow work to do around my privilege, my ignorance, my inability to actually listen with my heart open, and you're not wrong. My shadow is I don't sit well with emotions and feelings when I've been hurt or victimized in the past. I literally just tell myself to shake it off. When I get triggered, I just tell myself to shake it off. I don't dwell on emotions. I rely on logical reasoning as a mask. It's almost as a way for me to not confront my own problems. I emotionally detach, not because it's healthy, but because it's my way of coping. And then I expect other people to do the same unhealthy thing. It's kind of insane of me, actually. People really shouldn't be shaking off their feelings. And that's the shadow I brought to the table unfairly. And that's why I got called out for my behavior. I get that. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to cry or express a lot of feels and vulnerability and emotions. And I really wasn't allowed to be raw. Anytime I even began to cry or show any sense of vulnerability or emotions, my dad would tell me to man up and shake it off. And I haven't really figured out how to get over that yet. And I brought that shadow unfairly to the table. I came to that panel with very grossly unfinished shadow work. Queen Aset, I really want to specifically apologize to you for taking out my problems on you in a way that seemed like I was criticizing you. So I phrased my newsletter as if it was criticizing you. That's how it was construed, when really what it was me just lashing out because I can't deal with my own problems. And I really apologize that I took that out on you. I would never, ever promote silencing somebody's political or moral views. I would never, ever condone political passivity. And I disagree with political passivity. I am a strong proponent of civil disobedience. You can be a strong proponent of civil disobedience and walk the middle path at the same time. It is absolutely part of the Buddhist teaching to walk the middle path by keeping your heart centered and having empathy for your opponent while still going to war against that opponent. Middle path means your heart and your soul is in the middle. Your political stance can still be very much to one side, but your heart is centered while your political stance is on either side. I also want to talk about the meaning of my Ireland card story that I shared in the newsletter. It really happened. I'll recap the entire chronology of events. I was drawing a tarot card from my deck where that particular card image was intended to be set along Ireland's coastline. The background was to be the coast of Ireland, but I've never been to Ireland. And it's on my bucket list, but it's just one of the countries in this world I haven't visited yet. What I did was I found an image of a beach in Galway, and I tried to follow that as a reference, but it was a smooth, sandy beach with a couple of pebbles here and there, which after I posted that final image of the card's background onto my Instagram feed, I was told by many people who reached out to me publicly and privately that that's not particularly iconic of Ireland's coastline. So I took down that picture because I did want to really capture the essence of Ireland. So I took down the picture and started from scratch. I started all over again, this time being more conscientious about how I did the research, consulting a lot of people who would know better than I would, who are from Ireland, who have been to Ireland, who really are familiar with Ireland's coastline, just to make sure this time I got it right. And they did see the spirit of Ireland in that picture. In my newsletter, my intention was to share a story, a real situation about where I had to think about and navigate some of the difficult questions a tarot deck creator might have to tackle when it comes to depicting a culture not your own, and how to listen to feedback. But now I realize I completely misspoke. The way I said it was so messed up. And I just was incredibly insensitive because I didn't think long term with any greater foresight about the implications, the actual subtext of what I was saying. I was thinking in such a linear way that it didn't occur to me that there was a subtext underneath everything I was saying. The way I so flippantly, and I was trying to be cute, but it definitely didn't come across as cute. It came across as flippant and insensitive. It made it sound like I was giving a pass to deck creators to not do the work and to depict different cultures in tarot in a very flippant way, and that you don't need to do the work. And that was the total opposite of what I meant. There's nothing more important to me than listening to those who know and then adjusting our behavior so that we are acting in a way that's sensitive, considerate, and compassionate. And in fact, as a tarot deck creator, that's something extremely tangible, like a very simple marching order I can do to make sure that I am being sensitive, considerate, and compassionate. That's why I shared the story. My tone was attempting to be funny and cute, and it just was anything but funny and cute. And I hurt people with that tone, and I feel awful when I went back and reread it now with new, fresh eyes and a greater understanding of the implications of my words. I was horrified at the way I worded things. When I was writing it, typing it out, and ranting, I didn't, all of that it wasn't there. I promise you, it wasn't there. I was just like, kind of like that. But it was so messed up. Once I reread it, I was horrified at myself. I couldn't believe I wrote those words. And I feel so bad because I understand why that was so insensitive and why people were hurt by that comment. It sounded like, no, it was, it not sounded like, it was me talking flippantly about coastlines when the town hall I was just in was about the very real trauma of racism and cultural appropriation. And I just feel horrible that I misspoke in such a gross way. In retrospect, I do believe that the newsletter wording warranted critique, and I hope by highlighting it more and continuing this dialogue, and that this dialogue will continue after this video, that this can be a way of showing tarot content creators how they can be more considerate of the content they put out there. This was also a very necessary wake-up call to me. I can't just use my head, I have to use my heart too. I can't approach something as monumental as this with emotional detachment. And I always forget that. I'm very sorry. Queen Osset, Havana, Kim of Abundant Life Tarot, Shaniqua, I'm very sorry, specifically to you, that I did not show more solidarity. Kim, I'm a subscriber to your Abundant Life Tarot channel. I'm a huge fan of all the content you put out there. I love your vibes. I love your energy. I rarely disagree with you. Even when you came for me, I agreed with everything you said. So I found what you said about me very fair, very balanced. And I was like, yeah, she has a point. I didn't have anything to disagree with or rebut to anything that you said. Shaniqua, I remember you from the Ten of Swords Light Seers Tarot situation. I remember feeling, wow, she's a tarot superstar. You had such a nuanced and balanced perspective. Just the way you were, you show so much compassion and kindness to everybody. And I just thought, damn, she's a superstar. And I feel so horribly. Like I just feel so bad that I in any way whatsoever did anything to go against you guys. That's what really made me feel like a terrible asshole. I'm so sorry. The perspectives that have been shared have been very important, and I'm glad that they were shared. I'm not saying it left me feeling warm and fuzzy, but I'm very glad they were shared, and that's why I wanted to make this video. I felt like you needed to hear from me personally, and I definitely owe you that. If you want to talk one-on-one, I'm happy to.